Alliance between the Conservatives and the Democratic Unionist Party does not mean it's smooth sailing for Theresa May. Daniel Mahoney, Deputy Director and Head of Economic Research at the Center for Policy Studies, outlines a few of the problems with the new government.
I think there could be a couple of problems that arise from that. The first is that it only gives Theresa May a very small majority. The majority is actually smaller with the DUP than what she had previously, just yesterday. So that's a very big disadvantage. And there are also some quite severe policy differences between the DUP and the Conservatives, particularly on some social issues. So this is certainly a coalition that could unravel over the coming months.
Is that disconnect on things such as social issues going to play into Brexit negotiations 11 days from now?
I don't think that specifically will cause a problem for the Brexit negotiations. I think the Brexit negotiations are very much a problem in itself. But I think those social issues could highlight kind of broader schism between a Conservative Party that's trying to appeal to a wide range of people, so not just people in the shires, but also people in the sort of metropolitan urban centres, and you can see how that could alienate some people. On the Brexit negotiations, I think the jury's out on what this means. It could mean a softer Brexit, but it could also mean the likelihood of no deal. If problems emerge over the coming months, then negotiations are likely to be stalled.
What is a soft Brexit versus a hard Brexit as you see it?
Well, I mean, some people suggest there's no such thing as a soft Brexit, but when people say soft Brexit, they tend to mean staying within the single market, which is effectively, allows freedom of movement of workers. It also allows unfettered transfer and access of goods and services. So I think some people suggest that will be a more likely outcome. I'm slightly sceptical of that. Both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party went into the election pledging to end freedom of movement. So I think calls for that are perhaps a little bit premature.
When it comes to the negotiations themselves, does this put Britain in a position of weakness against the rest of the European Union?
I think it'd be hard to conclude that wasn't the case. I think European leaders will see this as May being very weak. She wanted to get a big majority. I mean, she was talking of a majority of over 100 at one point. And the fact she's not only lost seats, she now doesn't even have a majority in the Parliament. This surely will weaken her authority. And that certainly won't go unnoticed in EU capitals.
But while that may be a political-based response, what though of the actual negotiating power that comes with the economy of the UK?
Yeah, I mean, the UK still has some advantages that it brings to the table. So not only does the UK run a significant trade deficit with the European Union, the UK also supplies a lot of defence and security capabilities to the European Union. So I think that side of things isn't affected. But I think what is affected is May's authority when she goes into these negotiations. She was planning to go back to Brussels with a strong parliamentary majority, and now she doesn't even have a parliamentary majority. So that will, somewhat weaken her negotiating position when she starts these negotiations in 11 days' time.
And while the negotiations begin on the 19th, they do not end on the 20th. To your point about the coalition between Ms. May and the DUP, is there a risk, a genuine risk as you see it, that the two sides could fall apart and therefore that derails the discussions as the Conservatives are essentially distracted?
I think on Brexit, the issues, that's probably quite unlikely. After all, the Democratic Unionist Party were pro-Brexit, so they were advocating Brexit prior to the EU referendum. They are slightly worried about the implications of the border between the south of Ireland and the north of Ireland. They're obviously very keen to make sure that that border doesn't re-emerge, because there are obviously all kinds of sensitivities around there. So I'm sure they'll be very keen to insist that that issue is solved. But I think on broader issues, so freedom of movement and things like that, I think there will be consensus among the Conservative Party and the DUP.
Daniel Mahoney is the Deputy Director and Head of Economic Research at the Center for Policy Studies in London. He joined us earlier today.